This is Things You Might Not Have Heard, and I am Jay Clifton Payne. And in the queue for you today, 8 news stories from your Thursday, presented on this Friday, to give you stories that you deem conversational. These are stories you said were worthy of talking about. They're covering information, politics, current events, and pop culture news. Now, we're talking Walmart. This was the breaking news that it was pumping out yesterday as we were producing this. And then, of course, it went into the full story of the day, talking about the economy and Walmart specifically. Also, FEMA finding out that they're not quite ready for hurricane season. 2 weeks, folks. 2 weeks. And of course, Ohio State football is in the legislature in Ohio, and maybe not for the reasons that you would think. But we'll get to those stories and the 5 other ones in the queue in just a minute. We'll explain the vetting process, how these stories got here. 3 things off the top. Maybe, 4 things. Today, we're going to talk about the main 3 things are thisisconversationproject.com. That's our website. Find out more about how we do things at the Conversation Project at the website, thisisconversationproject.com. We also have our email address, the conversationinbox@gmail.com, where you can have further conversations on things offline. We can talk about stories, talk about life, if you will, at that email address. Go back and forth. And our sponsor for today, our spotlight sponsor, is Zenni Optical. Go to our website and click on the sponsors page, or goes directly to this is a conversationproject.com/Zenni. This is an affiliate link, so we get a small commission. Get your glasses, your next pair of glasses or sunglasses from Zenni Optical. Oh, the 4th thing, we've had a couple of issues, a couple of comments back and forth about the audio, the sound being low for these things. So it's turned up to 11. You're welcome, or my condolences. We're going with this one for a while until more complaints come in. So let's get into the actual good stuff, and that is the actual news for this Friday, May 16th, 2025 edition of Things You Might Have Heard. No particular order other than the best way to tell the narratives going forward. We'll explain how some of these stories get different spots in their actual listings for their engagement, how the engagement score works on this stuff, and of course the full conversation, the full details how it works in a bit. But these are just the stories, the best way we know how to tell them for this Friday, I should say. Story number 1 is Walmart, and Walmart plan to hike its prices. Prices are going up because the tariffs are happening. Despite some first strong quarter sales, Walmart's announcing plans to raise the prices on various goods due to increased costs from tariffs, particularly those coming from, as you guess, China. Despite the reduction in tariff rates that's going on right now, the company already stated that the financial burden remains significant and cannot actually be absorbed in the long run until all tariffs are gone, which means a price hike happening later this month. So in a few weeks, look for prices to go up at your Walmart stores. The first quarter of fiscal year 2025 reported revenues of $165.5 billion, which is a 2.5 increase over year to year from last year. Net income of $4.45 billion US. Same stores rose by 4.5%, with e-commerce up by 21%. That all looks great, all looks good, but the problem is you can't keep those prices up if the prices you're paying for stuff actually go up as well. So the price hikes are expected to affect a range of products, including electronics, toys, and certain food items. Walmart's decision may influence other retailers to implement the similar policies. Like I said, for tariffs, when people have to raise their prices for the goods coming from outside of the company, outside the country, what usually happens is people just sort of raise all the prices in general to go along with the high prices. They have an excuse to raise the prices. They raise the prices. It just works that way. So that's what we're looking for. Effort to minimize the impact on consumers. They're going to absorb as many costs as they can and outsource to other places that have a lower price if they can domestically, which is sort of the point. But the whole thing is right now, they can't avoid it. They can't escape it, even though the tariffs have been leaned for a bit. It's going to be a big deal really soon. Other bit of breaking news happening yesterday. We didn't have a lot of info on this other than it happened. So we waited the day. And this was the most engaging story by you guys all day long because it just was so out there. The headline for story number 2, Mexican beauty influencer shot and killed during TikTok live stream. Here are the details. Happening on May 13th, actually, the 23-year-old Mexican beauty influencer Valina Marquez was fatally shot doing a TikTok live stream at her salon, Blossom, the beauty lounge in Zapana, Jalisco. Moments before the attack, she expressed unease about a recent visitor who had delivered an expensive gift. During the live stream, a man entered and confirmed her identity and shot her in the head and chest. The incident was broadcast live, with the stream ending only when someone picked up her phone. Authorities are treating the case as a suspected femicide. Prosecutors believe the assailant was a hired hitman, and he did not appear to know Marquez personally. The region is known for cartel activity, and investigators are exploring the potential links to organized crime, including a possible connection to the murder of the former congressman earlier that day. The murder sparked widespread outrage in Mexico, highlighting the country's ongoing struggle with gender-based violence. President Claudia Sheinbaum had pledged with federal support for the investigation, extending the condolences to the Marquez family as well. A significant following on social media, Marquez had over 200,000 followers across TikTok and Instagram, and she was known for her beauty and makeup content, as well as her work as a model and the owner of a salon, a business owner as well. Mexico is facing a high rates of femicide, not just homicides and people being killed, but about 10 women murdered daily. Jalisco, the state where Marquez was killed, ranks sixth in the nation of Mexico for homicides. The public nature of Marquez's death underscores the urgent need for systematic action against gender-based violence in the country. We didn't have much information when this happened and started getting news on it. Now we do. Now it's almost like we're sad we have the information for it. But this seems like a fairly big deal, fairly big issue for Mexico itself, and just a sad, sad case of a person who, as far as we can tell, did nothing wrong but got kind of famous on TikTok and Instagram, got famous online. And not just because it was a random incident, but the cartels came after her, because cartels come after everyone, apparently, in places like that. Here's an update on the Wisconsin judge who helped the man evade immigration agents. She is pleading not guilty to that charge, helping a man evade federal immigration agents. Milwaukee County Circuit Judge Hannah Duggan has entered a not guilty plea to federal charges alleging she assisted an undocumented immigrant, Eduardo Flores Rios, in evading arrest by U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, the ICE agents. Prosecutors claim that during an April court appearance, April 18th to be exact, Duggan directed Flores Rios and his attorney to exit through a non-public door, circumventing ICE agents waiting outside the courtroom. Flores Rios was previously deported in 2013 and is facing misdemeanor domestic abuse charges. Was later apprehended after brief pursuit outside the courthouse from the ICE agents. So the man was in court with Duggan dealing with domestic abuse. They did whatever actions they need to do for the case, and then she helped Flores Rios out the back door, literally. Although he was caught moments later on a chase when they found out he was in the end of the part of the courthouse. Now, the legal team for the judge, led by former U.S. Solicitor General Paul Clement, argues that her actions are protected under the doctrine of judicial immunity. They cite the 2024 Supreme Court decision in Trump versus United States, support their claim that judges cannot be prosecuted for official acts performed within their judicial capacity. Defense has filed a motion to dismiss the charges, labeling the prosecution as unprecedented and unconstitutional, i.e., Trump has the right to do what he wants to as president in official duties. So in her official duties, Judge Duggan was doing what she could do. No harm, no foul, despite the, let's say, the nature and the not so much legality, but sort of the thought process of this going forward. The case has ignited political debate with supporters of Judge Duggan, including Wisconsin State Senator Chris Larson, viewing the charges as politically motivated and an attack on a judicial independence. Now, demonstrators have gathered outside the courthouse to protest the prosecution, while some Republican lawmakers have called for Duggan's resignation. What you expect. The Trump administration has framed this case as a warning to judges who might oppose the immigration enforcement policies. You step out of line, you're going to do some time. The trial is scheduled for July 21st, following a pre-trial hearing around the 9th of July. If convicted, she could serve 6 years in prison, $350,000 fine. Wisconsin Supreme Court has temporarily suspended her from judicial duties, so other folks are working on cases right now. She is off the bench because she has to deal with her own issues. Ongoing tensions between the state judicial authorities and federal immigration enforcement is a big deal, and this is basically bringing this to light by many cases. It raises questions about the extent of judicial immunity and the role judges actually have in cases of federal immigration actions. Now, this one is a bit of a doozy because this judge was intervening in ICE actions when it wasn't an ICE action in her courthouse. It was domestic abuse. So this is one where you may think, where was her actual thought processes lie in actual being this? Was she actually being an impartial judge in this case, or was she just doing something because she doesn't like the Trump administration? You have to think about this. We may hear more about this in testimony as it goes to trial. This one's definitely something we are paying attention to. If you're paying attention to how things work for this nation and how the administration is working things, pay attention to FEMA right now. because FEMA just had an internal investigation, and they have found, just by looking at themselves, they ain't ready. They ain't ready. They ain't ready for hurricane season. Hurricane season is about 2 weeks, and FEMA has so many issues that it just isn't going to be able to handle it. They already see happening. Budget shortfalls for things from the past, budget shortfalls for people in place for this year. And the big issue is with the cuts, mostly Doge, but many other cuts as well, to sources and for people in the agency. FEMA's not going to be able to react like it will normally for hurricane season. Now, the kicker this is the Trump administration, and many folks who complain about FEMA say they're not doing a good job anyway. So why would they do better in this case going forward? But as the case happens to be, FEMA right now just does not have the goods, does not have the tools to get the things done for hurricane season, this hurricane season. Plus, not doing great for past batches of tornadoes, not doing great for other events happening, and just getting the downfall of what's going on. I don't have in the notes in front of me, but I'm not sure exactly whose jurisdiction FEMA even is under right now, because I'm sure they were pulled from one place. I guess they're still under Homeland Security, I guess, but we'll find out fairly soon if that's going to be a Kristi Noem problem or whose problem it is coming forward. Hurricane season is going to be pretty big. They're projecting major storms as they're getting bigger. That's a global warming thing, of course, but we'll see what happens as the nation is going to prepare for all the disasters that will happen. And if FEMA, the agency, is meant to support the states, because Donald Trump wants to just give the money to the states, let them deal with it without any extra support, will happen. If this will be a push to push it going faster to make it work even better. We'll see. We pause in the news coverage to ask you for a favor. 4 more stories are coming, I promise, but just a quick stop to ask you for your engagement by liking, sharing, subscribing to the video you're watching here. If you like this video, because I'm giving you great news content, great commentary content, and not too much in the way of stuttering or ums or ahs or burping or coughing and things like that, and you like the volume, maybe you like the volume today you're good with the volume, that may be a thing today. We're looking for you to like this one so I know I'm doing good work. It also shows the algorithms that good work's being done, and they may share with other people going forward. If you share it with like-minded people, they may like it, they may share it as well. And that's more people to grow, to have us in the queue together to go over things. More people watching the videos mean more people who are in the queue for the hot takes, and more people in the queue for helping us pick the stories. We'll talk about how that works in a bit. If you're not getting this video package or any of my videos or my audios or my newsletter natively in your feeds, go to the website, This Is a Conversation Project, and look and see if there's some way you particularly want to get this information, whether it's just the newsletter from the email, whether it's audio from podcasts, or just this video here. Figure out where you want to get it and then subscribe to it. It's on your feed. This video comes to you live about 5:50 Monday through Friday, so there's that. But we have other things that come through. If you don't want to watch it live, just watch it later, but it'll be in your feed, your inbox, if you subscribe to it. You don't have to wait for the algorithm to send it to you on multiple occasions. Like, share, and subscribe to help grow the News Nerd Nation around here. For number 5, the story in that headline spot, the headline reads, "New poll shows Americans divided over DEI programs on college campuses." DEI is a big deal, and one of the biggest push that the Trump administration is doing is to eliminate it, because everything should be based on fairness and merit. However, a recent AP and ORC poll reveals that the Americans out there are actually divided over diversity, equity, and inclusion programs on college campuses. Approximately 40% of respondents support these initiatives, so that's not nothing, may not be the majority, but it's pretty high. 30% oppose them, which means they give out, with 30% actually remaining neutral in the cases. While the core DEI elements like courses on racism and scholarships for underrepresented students receive broader acceptance, many critics associate DEI with favoritism rather than support services, which is where the confusion lies. The demographic differences are evident in poll results. White adults are generally more opposed to DEI programs compared to Black or Hispanic adults. Additionally, women tend to be more supportive of DEI than men. Political landscape reflects these divisions, where President Donald Trump has issued executive orders to dismantle DEI projects, labeling them as illegal and immoral. His actions have led to reductions in scholarships and mentorships, and particularly affecting students of color across the nation. Despite the political opposition, public opinion remains nuanced, as you saw in the poll numbers. Many Americans value DEI components like mentorship and historic education, essentially teaching people what actually happened so you know to learn from it. But the widely based political affiliation, with this being about favoritism, essentially choosing a quota over another or a person who is less qualified, but being picked just because they are of a person of a status that minority status, a female over males or a person of color over a white person, just because they exist, is where the confusion lies. The poll actually underscores the complexity of public attitudes towards these programs in higher education and in general, if you will, highlighting the importance for discussions and understanding the role of impact, not just saying that person is of color, so obviously the job they got was because they got preference, so give it to somebody else who is better at doing it, who is probably not of color. As simple as it sounds, that's silly as it sounds, that's where we are, and that's where we're stuck. We talk a lot about Luigi Mangione and the crime he's allegedly committed of doing. But in the early parts of the crime, we talked a lot about United Healthcare and how they may or may not be such a great company after all, not so much warranting the CEO's death, but saying that the anger behind it might have been something that people should have thought about that. Headline for story number 6. UnitedHealth under criminal investigation for potential Medicare fraud, report says. Federal investigators are concluding a criminal investigation into UnitedHealth Group over alleged company fraudulently overbilling Medicare. The probe focuses on whether the insurer manipulated patient data, specifically risk scores, to initiate government payments under the Medicare Advantage plan. Sources familiar with the matter say the Justice Department has been quietly working on this case since mid-2024, signaling a potential shift from civil inquiries to a criminal enforcement going forward. So UnitedHealth says it has been officially notified of any criminal charges, has not been officially notified of criminal charges, nothing has been told them yet, and maintains that its billing practices are complying with regulations. They say they're on the up and up. The company stock dropped sharply on this news, so 17% on the investigation, breaking for the public to know in one day. The analysts attribute the plunge not only to legal fears, but the broader concerns over medical costs rising anyway, which didn't make much life easier when the sudden resignation of the current CEO, Andrew Whitty, happened a few days past. The investigation comes amid growing national concern amid Medicare Advantage systems in general, where the private insurers receive fixed payments to manage care for seniors. Critics say that the model incentives upcoding, exaggerating patient conditions to get higher payouts. UnitedHealth, the largest Medicare Advantage provider, has faced similar civil lawsuits in the past, but a criminal case would mark a new phase for accountability for the industry. As I said, the actual crime that UnitedHealth may be charged with or is being charged with is not a qualifier for the crime that Luigi Mangione is charged with, especially since, oddly enough, while United Healthcare is the largest provider of health insurance, it was not a provider of health insurance for Mangione. Ironically enough, the situation seemed just like a situation of convenience. He was there. He was a target. He was right there and open, and it happened, allegedly. We'll talk more Mangione going forward, but this is something that I actually brought up early on in the actual case, that United Healthcare and maybe the CEO at the time, Brian Thompson, had some issues going forward. And also that he may not actually be such a great dude. We will see how this case plays out, because people are definitely keeping an eye on United Health because of who it is and because of the case of adjacent with Mangione. Not going to court, but to the legislature, as Ohio lawmaker is proposing a new bill in the legislature to limit Ohio State football's noon kickoffs. Are you a person who loves noon kickoff games? You probably do if you're staying at home and watching on TV and it's a rival team that you don't particularly have to go watch. But if you want to go see them in person, getting up to tailgate at 8 in the morning is not quite as fun. It can get what it is, but instead of having an evening game, having a morning game, 11 o'clock or 12 kickoff is a bit of a stretch, but they have to do it for the TV rights because the big games. Ohio State's a big time football program, and so they want to get them on some of these game day things, and so a lot of times they get on for 12 o'clock kickoffs. But State Representative Tex Fisher has introduced a bill to restrict the early kickoff times for Ohio State football games. Proposed legislation will prohibit games involving Ohio State University from starting before 3:30 p.m. Eastern time, with exception to the rivalry against Michigan, which starts at noon. That always starts at noon. This bill specifically targets marquee matchups where both teams are ranked in the top 10 of the Associated Press poll. Violation of this proposal would rule a $10 million fine imposed on the broadcasting network or a conference scheduling the game. So whoever decides to put Ohio State in a game that's at noon before 3:30 p.m., if you will, is going to pay $10 million. Now, is it worth it? Maybe it is, but we'll see how that plays out. So the response to this appears to show that Fisher is a fan, and the satisfaction of the rest of the fans in the early game times is basically pulling into this behind this. Those scheduled for Fox's Big Noon Kickoff specifically because Ohio State's played a bunch of those games, especially the season over against Texas, two big-time powerhouses playing at noon, intensified the concerns. Essentially, getting a good game on early means you get people watching early, and maybe they'll stick around for later games, as opposed to people expecting a bigger game to watch later. From Fisher, a quote, social media stating, "A few weeks ago, I said it would be a crime for Fox to put Ohio State versus Texas at noon. Promises made, promises kept. While the bill has garnered some attention, its prospects for passage remain uncertain. Our critics argue that such legislation may overstep by attempting to regulate game scheduling, which is typically managed by athletic conferences and the broadcasting networks. Basically, it's their job to figure out which games will play better to folks and make the most money for them going forward. Nonetheless, the proposal is up there. It's going to go for some sort of talk, maybe a vote to include. And as I said, there's a $10 million fine on the line." Man, I want to use that one. Maybe they'll pay it going forward. Maybe it's something worth paying for a $10 million fine. Now, other teams with high profiles are thinking something like this may be something to do. It's something like Penn State concerning things for stuff like that. And right now, there's legislation going on in Texas that is legislator specific, where I'm not sure if it's all games in college for Texas or just games in Houston, but they want to ban 10 Cruz because 10 Cruz tends to be a big fan of Houston football, Houston games. He likes to show up, people boo him, and they tend to lose when he shows up. Legislation for college football is a bigger deal than you think. It is maybe a silly sort of story, but the fact that Ohio State wants to regulate the times for games could cost the network some issues, could cause them issues, could cost them money either way. And in the case of Ted Cruz, might gain a fan base. We shall see. And finally, get out your sow's ears because silk purses may be coming. Maybe, as scientists have successfully turned lead into gold, but only for a split second. Let's go into this headline to story. The Large Hadron Collider has been used for something other than just potentially destroying the Earth. Physicists at CERN have momentarily transformed lead into gold, realizing a centuries-old alchemy aspiration through modern nuclear physics. Utilizing that LHC, the Large Hadron Collider, researchers have accelerated lead nuclei to near light speeds, including near-miss collisions which generate intense electromagnetic fields. Big words that mean the field stripped 3 protons from some lead atoms, which have 82 protons, resulting in the formation of a gold atom, which only has 79 protons. The process, known as electromagnetic dissociation, led to the creation of approximately 86 billion gold nuclei during experiments conducted between 2015 and 2018. Nuclei, not actual bars of gold, but teeny tiny fragments of gold. Despite the large number of nuclei, total mass is only 29 picograms, roughly 29 trillionths of a gram. Literally something you can't even come to fathom. The gold atoms were highly unstable, existing for mere microseconds before disintegrating upon collision with the collider's beam, essentially just going away, blowing up because it could not stand itself. The fleeting existence renders the process economically unviable for gold production and offers significant scientific insights. We learned some stuff, like we can't just make gold in the Super Hadron Collider. Although that would be cool. The successful detection and analysis of this transmutation marks a milestone in experimental physics. The ALICE, a large ion collider experiment, collaborating with CERN, employed advanced detectors to systematically observe and study these rare elements. Now, understanding these processes enhance all the knowledge we have of nuclear reactions and the behavior of the matter under extreme conditions, which is great for physicists and especially for particle work. But it also has the pursuit of the ancient thought process of transmutation, turning one metal into another, a base metal to something else, lead into gold, which has been of legend, it still can't exist. Sow's ears into silk purses, maybe they'll try that next. As promised, 8 news stories for you from your Thursday that you deem as conversational. And yes, I'm sure you really wanted to know if it was able to turn gold from lead. And we know it can be done, but not worth the effort, not worth the energy to spend it. Here are 3 stories that will have to battle through the weekend to survive to be one of the 10 stories for Monday. Remember, a much larger field to pull from, so a much slightly larger field to give you with 10 stories. Here are 3 stories posted now that have to survive all weekend long at the top to get that love. Hospital tells family brain dead Georgia woman must carry fetus to birth because of abortion ban. Also, a kindergartner brought Jello shots to school, get them out to students, says district, not just Jello in shot glasses, actual Jello shots. And the cost of the birthday parade for the Army and Trump's estimated at $25 to $45 million. This is the big parade for the celebrating of our nation and our Army on the big birthday, which happens to fall on Trump's birthday. And so Trump wants a parade for it. And it's going to cost money if it happens, if it comes to fruition. Those 3 stories and more, over 90 stories of the weekend, will be presented to you in our feeds on Facebook and X. Facebook.com/This is Conversation Project, and X.com/TH_conversation. If you want to get your story to be covered on come Monday, make sure you're following along for these stories. Follow the feeds and see what stories all weekend long will be there for you to engage in. Every 50 minutes or so, we do this, and you can tell me what stories we should consider. We'll take a good half of those stories, about 90 or so stories of the weekend. We'll take half of those into consider and then give you 10 of them to repeat back in a show like this come Monday. Now I'm going to deal with our sponsor for today, and it is Zenni Optical. Zenni Optical is a great place to buy your next pair of glasses. I bought all my glasses for the past decade from Citing Optical, and it has saved me money, saved me time, saved me headaches moving forward. I am due to buy myself some brand new glasses. I have now a prescription for regular glasses, prescription for progressives, because my doctor says it's time to give it up and kind of go for it. And because Zenni offers stylish glasses and very, very affordable glasses, I can get both and not worry about them and hopefully look fairly good in them. They'll be the same frames, I'm sure, but hopefully look fairly good in them. They'll offer you the perfect pair for frames starting as low as $6.99. Yes, still $6.99, and they're not ugly, cheesy BCGs like you had in military birth control glasses. These are nice and glasses. Shopping there is easy. It's fun. You can upload your picture, and you can see a picture, a preview of what you look like. You don't have to pay $100 to send 5 pair of glasses back. Just buy the glasses you want and send them back if they don't work. About that. They have all of the technology you're looking for. Sunglasses, they got them. Transitions lenses for going in and out, they got them. Anti-reflective coatings, they got them. Progressives, we're going to have them. Blue blocker technology, they got them at the fraction of the cost you get from the big stores. And they have 100% satisfaction guarantee. Like I said, buy the glasses you want. If you don't like them, send them back for that money back for those glasses. Don't send them back to send glasses back. Zenni Optical offers eyewears for every you, man, women, and child. Check them out at our website, our link for affiliates. This is the conversationproject.com/ZENNI. This is conversationproject.com/Zenni for Zenni Optical. They will take good care of you and your eyes so that you can move forward, do good things in your life. Great glasses from Zenni Optical. Conversation Project lives online at this. It's a conversationproject.com. On Fridays, we give a little extra love to the people who have become partners with us because they are offering up a little extra effort to make sure things get done. Literally paying into the effort to see if we can progress. So we thank you so much for our partners, those being Harold Braxton, Colby Green, Eldon Kidd, and Joy Winters. Because my glasses are over there today, I can't actually pull them up and read them in front of me. So it is so that there's there why Zenni Optical is so important. But these are people on the cup of coffee level of subscription is $5, and the spare change is $1. $16 a month doesn't seem like a lot, but it means a lot to us because these are people who think we're doing good stuff. Now, in a few days, I'm going to do another crying video about how we need your help and support to keep things going and talk about some of the lots of great things in life that are pushing right now that are keeping things from being done. So I need a little help on something that's working. This is working. I will ask that in a later video. But if you want to go ahead and do this now, go to our website, go to the this is conversationprod.com/partnerships page and join in on the fun there. You can also join in as a member on YouTube, and I'll tell you right there, those are about $1 less in the actual tiers if you want to pay $1 less, but we get that directly from YouTube and YouTube payments that is coming to us as well. Now, the whole point about the Conversation Project is actually what we do and the conversations and how conversations get had and happen there. So with that, remember our website, this is conversationproject.com. Our email address, the conversation inbox at gmail.com. And of course, the feeds are facebook.com/th_conversation, x.com/th_conversation, facebook.com/this is conversation project. Every 50 minutes or so, we post news headlines from various sources, and we're looking for you to engage in them and tell us their stories worth talking about, not so much worth talking about. The higher engagement score that you give, basically how many times you actually click on it, how many times you share it, how many times you emoji face it, the more you do with those things, the higher it gets engagement, better chance we have of talking about it in some iteration. We'll have 10 stories come Monday from over 90 stories that will whittle down to 45 of the top half to see which ones are best. For the rest of the week, it'll be 8 stories from about 15, 16, or 17 or so from about 30 in a day. That's how it works. That's how the background stuff works. With that, we're done. And we didn't go too long today. We went long yesterday for some real reason, but this time, not so long. Friday, May 16th, 2025 edition of the Conversation Projects, Things You Might Have Heard. Thank you so much for joining us for this jaunt. Another big weekend of family stuff, so we'll see about the weekend stuff. In fact, we're going to retool the weekend stuff, we're going to retool the weekly roundup. It's probably going to have more stories, probably 15, 3 a day, but it will go for a much shorter, less of a detailed description, but more of just a rundown real quick going back and forth. We'll see how that plays out in a bit. So we'll see how that plays out once you get time to actually play with it. But we still want to honor give the weekend folks, the partners a chance to get that extra deal of promotion, and 2, honor you guys for seeing what we did in the last week. Just a rollback of some of the stories that were important in the prior week. So, but that's it for this one. I'm done. Hopefully the sound level was good for you. Hopefully it wasn't too blaring, too loud, because I've got it recording in 3 different spaces. 2 of those spaces are already pretty blasting. So apparently the audio being transferred on the internet was the issue. We'll see how that works out. You let me know in the comments, and I will tell you, love you. Mean it. I will see you live again come Monday morning.